Hey, today I'm going to talk about a light-hearted Korean film that deals with the existential dread you get after one of your closest friends passes away. I'm also going to talk about an Israeli rom-com where the bride-to-be gets dumped a month before her wedding, but don't worry because she's going to find a replacement groom in that month. And then I'm also going to talk about Clifford the Big Red Dog. First up is Clifford, the Big Red Dog. So the trailer was not great. Like, the CGI for Clifford was questionable at best. But there were a couple of laughs in that trailer that legit got me, so I was like, you have my interest, movie, I'm gonna go for it. Even though it did get mixed reviews, I'm just like, you know, this could be something. So I went into this movie with a very open mind, and I was pleasantly surprised. I enjoyed this movie a ton. It was legit a good time. Yes, the CGI for Clifford wasn't great, but you got used to it. I think it was worst when he was a puppy, but then by the time he got to be a big boy, it was super easy to just accept this red monstrosity as what it is. The two main actors did such a great job carrying this movie. Darby Camp and Jack Whitehall. I actually watched Jack earlier this year in The Jungle Cruise, and he was actually a solid part of that movie. And then Darby was actually my favorite part of Big Little Lies, the HBO TV show. She's actually the main reason I wanted to watch this, because she was so funny that I thought she had a good shot in this. And she really did. She was legit solidly funny. Like, her jokes landed pretty much every single time. I unironically had a smile on my face for most of this movie. It was a good, solid, wholesome, fun time. I do have some legitimate critiques of this movie, but really, this is a quite liked. It's basically a 4 out of 5 for me. I recommend this movie. What I wish they would have done differently basically boils down to, I wish they wouldn't have basically written the mom out of the movie, and this movie did not need some greedy rich guy as the bad guy, because otherwise it's a great movie. I definitely recommend it. I'm not the target audience for this movie, but I still enjoyed it a ton. You put this movie on, you're setting yourself up for a fun time. Watch it. It's a good, solid kids movie. Next up is Lucky Chang-Sil. This is a 2020 Korean movie, and the basic premise is it is about this 40-year-old movie producer who suddenly loses her lifelong directing partner to a heart attack, and now she is unsure what to do with her life. She questions if she can continue making films, even though like her whole life is about film, or if she like needs a man to sweep her away and get all carried off with that. I love the one line I think really sums this movie up is this love or is this loneliness? That was a very powerful thing that really reverberated with me. And yeah, this movie was great. I really enjoyed it. It is a bit slow, but I really connected to it. As much as the premise sounds sad, it is a very wholesome, cute little movie. It's really just dealing with grief and also, you know, existential crisis, but, you know, just trying to, like, you know, figure out life. And it's really cute and fun. My favorite part of the movie, because it's about filmmakers, I love that. And then my favorite part of the movie has to do with that, and it's she meets this other director guy and just kind of flirting with him a bit, and they kind of go on an almost date, and she starts talking about her favorite director and her favorite films of his, and then the guy is like, yeah, I've seen it, I didn't really like it, it was slow and boring and nothing happened. And she's just like, what? And just like rails into him hard. And he's like, yeah, I just like Christopher Nolan. And I'm like, okay, buddy. Christopher Nolan does make some nice stuff, but like, shut up. That was her exact response to you, and it was great. And I loved everything about it. I don't know if I've connected more with a fictional character before. It was just chef's kiss. It was amazing. So yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. I would recommend it if you think this is your vibe. I get that slow foreign films aren't everyone's vibe, but I think if you think it might be, I'd say go for it because it is a good, lighthearted, fun time. And lastly is The Wedding Plan. This is a 2016 Israeli rom-com. I basically said all of the premise earlier, but I'll repeat it again. This movie is about a 35-year-old Jewish woman in Israel who is sick and tired of being single. She hates all like the social stigma that comes from being a single woman and just like all of the hate that society brings on her for not having a husband and having a fulfilling life by being married. So she's dead set determined on getting married. So she goes to a matchmaker. The matchmaker sets her up with the dude. They plan on getting married, and then right before the marriage, a month out, it's like 22 days, he's like, you know what, I don't like you, and bounces. And then she's just like, you know what, screw it, I believe in God's plan. I'm gonna get married on that day, so I'm gonna get married on that day. And she sets out for the rest of the movie to try to find a husband. And it's really cute and fun. I enjoyed a lot about this movie. Obviously, it's a different culture. I don't recommend in general for people to meet someone and then immediately get married within a month. That's highly ill-advised, I would say. But this is a different culture. They have different traditions. It's a whole different thing. So I had to like put my Western ideals aside and just accept this movie for what it is. And because I was accepted for what it is, I had a fun time with it. I especially loved when she found someone who was crazier than she is. Like everyone actually says that she is crazy. They call her crazy. She goes on like a bunch of blind dates, and one of the blind dates is with this guy who refuses to look at her. He's just like straight the entire date. And she's like, so are you ever gonna look at me, buddy? And he's like, no, if I don't look at any other women besides my wife, then by default, my wife is the most beautiful woman in the world. And she's like, oh, that's really sweet. And then he's like, will you marry me? And she's like, yes, if you look at me, I will marry you. And he's like, are you playing a trick on me? I said I'm not gonna look at anyone besides my wife. And she's like, I promise you, if you look at me, I will marry you. Because she will definitely do that. And he's like, no, you are trying to trick me. My wife will just accept me for the way that I am. No questions asked. Screw you, woman. And then he storms off. And I'm like, this guy is bonkers and I love it. Yeah, I would recommend it in general, especially if you're a fan of rom-coms. It still has that lighthearted funness you want from rom-coms of just like lovey-dovey stuff. So yeah, it was a cute, fun, good time. Alrighty, now for today's rankings. First up, we got Clifford, the big red dog, sitting at number 32 in the quite like section of the new movies, and that brings the total of all the new movies up to 67. And then jumping over to the old movie list, first up we have Lucky Chan-Sil, sitting at number 56 in the really like section, and then after that is The Wedding Plan, sitting at number 90 in the quite like section, and that is out of a total of 252 old movies so far this year, and that brings the grand total out of all the movies I've seen so far this year up to 318.